All right, folks, welcome back to another adventure with us over here, the Not Funny Guys. It's Not Funny Guys Go Team Venture. This is episode 2. And in today's episode, we're going to be covering 2 more episodes of the Venture Brothers Season 1. This time, we'll be looking at Home Insecurity and the incredible Mr. Bisby. So let's jump in here. First of all, let's start with Home Insecurity. This comes to us, originally aired August 21st, 2004, written by one of the co-creators, Jackson Public. And so here is our summary of this one. We find that Baron Underbite, we were introduced to Baron Underbite, one of Dr. Venture's many great villainous characters. Obviously meant to be kind of a cross between Dr. Doom and Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's kind of my guess there. But we find him in his homeland and Underland, and I believe is the name here. And he's plotting against, he finds that his minions on the council have been plotting against him, or at least he claims they are, including Girl Hitler. And he knocks them off in a very elaborate overkill kind of way. But then we cut to the fact that he has one more enemy to destroy, and that is Dr. Venture. And so we then cut to the Venture compound. Brock is going on vacation or sabbatical. And we find that Dr. Venture, Rusty doesn't want him to go. He hasn't finished the security system, where we later find out the security system is basically a robot called Gardo, which is sort of meant to be designed to replace, Helper. Helper, of course, eventually will take great offense to this and run away when he finds the plans later on. While he's on vacation, or when he finds the military blocking off this camping area he's going to, he enters the area to run into Sasquatch and the $6 billion man, aka Steve Austin. I'm sorry, I mean, this time it's Steve Summers. So he eventually finds out that these two are lovers, and he's apparently, Steve Summers has run away because when they use $6 billion to repair you, they then expect you to pay it off by working for the government, for which he's not into. So then we also have them, he helps them eventually escape later on. And of course the military guards are like, that was Steve Summers in a wig and a shaved Sasquatch. But back on the home front, it appears that the Monarch's henchmen have decided to attack the Venture compound. They trip the security system accidentally once they have also learned that Baron Underbite's henchmen are there. And so they end up having like this strange standoff type thing where they have to send things up the chain, but they also trip the security system, which puts the Venture brothers and their father in the panic room, where Gardo has decided that because Dr. Venture hasn't finished programming him, he wants to kill the boys. So yeah, there's that fun stuff too. So they're trapped in there. They're basically trying to get in contact with Brock, who's unreachable at this point. And while they're doing this, the henchmen send up the chain of command. So Baron Underbite and the Monarch meet to have a kind of a tete-a-tete. I think my favorite part is when the Monarch asks, how do you get an outside line in the most evil way possible? Also, Dr. Girlfriend apparently accidentally gets Diet Coke instead of a cola. And they're having their little tete-a-tete about who has dibs. And while they're doing this, the Baron Underbite basically reveals that the reason he has this metal jaw emplacement has to do with apparently that he and Rusty were in college together and they were lab partners. So, and then the Monarch decides to present his plan, but he basically has a PowerPoint that crashes the computer. So that's hilariously stupid. But eventually it ends up being too late, because when the security system gets overridden thanks to Helper showing up to save the day, Gardo is then released and apparently destroys all the henchmen, who've all been at this point sitting around bemoaning their status and what it's like serving their master, which is just another fun insight into the life of a henchman. Of course, we meet Steve. The insights for this one, of course, we meet Steve Summers, $6 Million Man reference. Of course, we meet Werner Underbite for the first encounter. Also, with henchmen 24 and 21. Even though they're not named, they're voiced by Christopher McCullough and Doc Hammer. These are actually characters who we will see returning. I think we finally get henchman names for them at the garage sale, the yard sale episode later this season. We also learned that Rusty lactates under pressure, but it's just another example of how Rusty Venture is a narcissistic, quirky weirdo with so many problems. And it is also the first time when the Baron and Monarch get on the same page together. We also have our first introduction to the Guild of Calamitous Intent, which will come back and we will find out more in the future. All right, so that's all for Home Insecurity. Let's move on to our next episode. All right, so we're going to move on now to the episode 4, The Incredible Mr. Bisby. And I'm going to apologize, for those of you watching on the YouTube, my TV screen and the Fire TV stick has crashed out on me so many times. I'm just tired of dealing with it. So if you're watching this on the YouTube channel, which you should subscribe to, please know that you may not get any video background for this one other than whatever Fire TV decides to throw at me. In fact, I may just turn it off. Who knows? All right. Well, originally aired on Incredible Mr. Bisby, originally aired on August 28th, 2004. Also written by co-creator Jackson Public. This one is actually one of my favorite episodes. So we have the X-1 landing in what appears to be the African savannah, but it is not. Hank and Dean are awake. They wake up. Unfortunately, they're at Bisby Land, or Bisby Land, whatever it is. Where apparently Brock and Rusty have come to meet Mr. Bisby, and they're escorted by his bodyguard, Mandalay. Big African-American guy. Of course, Bisby has him there eventually to find out he wants to talk to him about cloning, which is a huge foreshadow we find out later at the end of the season. While he's there in the room, we find out Dr. Venture gets creeped out by the sound of a chewing noise, which turns out to be a panda that Bisby won from David Bowie in some sort of trivia contest way back when trivia contests were not a thing, I guess. Outside, Brock has a cigarette from Mandalay, which we come to find out is laced and drugged, and Bisby is kidnapped. Oh, look, it's reloading now. Sorry for those of you watching on the YouTube. And of course, eventually he gets dumped in what looks like the La Brea tar pits to be dealt with while they kidnap Dr. Venture to find out more about cloning. The boys, Hank and Dean, are still on the X-1. They actually get kidnapped by a whole different group, which turns out to be the Orange County Liberation Front. And we come to find out that this quote-unquote stand-in for Disneyland, /Disney World, is kind of a monster. I know people would agree with that. Brock is rescued by none other than Molotov cocktease, who we come to find out have a long history together, a very violent one. Twinged with sexual desires, that's very messed up. Of course, Brock can't, they literally fight, and then it turns into what appears to be about to be sex when Brock cannot actually have sex with her because she's still wearing a chastity belt. He stands up with a massive erection, so not safe for kids here. And then goes off to deal with it in the bathroom before they can go rescue the boys. Rusty, of course, she's going to help him, obviously. They go to Bisby's bee dome. So instead of a mouse in this case with Disney, it's a bee for Bisby. And so they're there. They've drugged Dr. Venture, trying to get him to tell them the secrets of cloning that he found from he heard the rumor from Venture's father that he was dabbling in. And so we then come to find out that this is literally the building next door to wherever they had been meeting. But the drugs apparently interact with other drugs that he has in his system, and it causes a whole things where he basically starts reciting movie lines and stuff like that from the drugs in his system, which is absolutely hilarious. And then, of course, the Orange County Liberation Front has now brainwashed Hank and Dean, and they launch an attack. They have these little Bisby hats. They launch an attack on the Bisby Dome and get into this huge fight that's way over the top. Brock ends up saving them. Of course, Molotov double crosses him only because that's not her mission. She's apparently there to get the panda back for David Bowie. We come to find out that later. But of course, everybody gets saved. Of course, the Dr. Venture falls and Brock uses a bolt gun to shoot through his wrist to keep him from falling to his death. All right, fun times. Love this episode. It's just a fun mockery of Disney, so it's always a fun one. Mr. Roy Bisby is obviously meant to be Walt Disney. We have the first mention of David Bowie, which this becomes a running gag and will be turned into something else later. Like I said, Mickey Mouse has been replaced by the Bisby. And of course the Orange County Liberation Front, and then of course the first talk of cloning, which I will say is foreshadowing for anybody who's been watching ahead. And of course we meet Malakoff Cocktease for the first time, which she will be a recurring character and sort of quasi love interest for Brock, even though it's a really, really weird one. So that's it for that episode, and that is it for this episode of Funny Guys Presents Go Team Venture. Please like, subscribe, listen to us on the podcast over at Acast, links in the description below. You can also follow us on the YouTube if you want to watch some of this with us. And we encourage you to watch along. Watch along, have fun. It's a great television show. Mostly, first 3 seasons are available on Netflix. I think it's in other places, but I'm not exactly sure. So I encourage you guys to watch along. On Friday, we will be back again, and we will be looking at episodes 5 and 6, Eneny, Meeny, Miney, Magic, and Ghosts of the Sargasso. So I will see you then. And until then, have a safe time, have fun, happy birthday, whatever you want to throw in there. I don't have a tagline for the end of this thing yet, but good luck and good night.